Picture the icon. A giant white screen glowing against a summer night. Rows of cars, families on blankets, the smell of popcorn drifting across the lot. At its peak, America had over 4,000 of these, and on a good night, they sold 1 out of every 4 movie tickets in the country. Almost all of them are gone now. Bulldozed, paved over, turned into housing and shopping centers. Fewer than a few hundred still run. Here is the strange part. The ones that survive make their money on something that has almost nothing to do with the movie on the screen. Keep that in mind, because it is the whole business. So let us open the books on the drive-in theater. What does the land actually cost? Why is the ticket the part that barely matters? And why does owning one usually end not in bankruptcy, but in a phone call from a developer? The buy-in. ... Start with what you are really buying, because it is not a cinema. It is a field. A drive-in needs land, and a lot of it. 10 to 15 acres is normal, sometimes more. You need room for the screen, the projection building, a snack bar, and rows of cars fanned out so every windshield has a clear view. That much flat, open, well-located land is the single biggest cost of the whole business, and often more than half the price of getting in. There are 2 ways to own one. You can build from scratch, which means buying the acreage, grading it into gentle ramps, putting up a screen 60 feet wide or more, and installing a modern digital projector. That projector alone can run tens of thousands of dollars, because the studios stopped shipping reels and went fully digital, and a screen that cannot show new releases cannot fill the lot. Or you buy one that already exists, which is where most real deals happen. A retiring family owner, a piece of land held for decades, a business run on summer evenings, and a lot of goodwill. When you buy that, you are not buying the projector or the screen. You are buying the dirt underneath them, and the right to keep showing movies on it, instead of selling to someone who wants to build houses. That tension, the land versus the movie, sits under every single decision this business makes. Hold that thought, because it comes back at the end. What you inherit. You inherit a business that fights the calendar, the weather, and the sun itself. First, the season. A drive-in in most of the country runs maybe 6 to 8 months a year. It closes when the nights get cold, because nobody sits in a freezing car to watch a screen. So you have a fixed piece of land and a fixed set of bills, and only part of the year to earn against them. Second, the clock. A drive-in cannot start the movie until it is dark. In midsummer, that can mean waiting until 9 at night, which means 1 full show, maybe a double feature if you push it late. An indoor theater runs the same film 5 or 6 times a day. You get 1 turn of the lot, weather permitting. Third, the weather itself. Rain does not just spin the crowd, it can cancel the night entirely. A washed-out Saturday in peak season is revenue you never get back, and you had no control over it. Fourth, the film deal. When you show a new first-run movie, the studio takes a huge share of every ticket, often somewhere between 1/3 and more than half of it. So the ticket money, the thing everyone assumes is the business, is mostly passed straight through to Hollywood. What you inherit is a venue where the headline product barely earns you anything. Which raises the obvious question. If the movie does not make the money, what does? The revenue layers. A drive-in has a handful of income streams, and their order will surprise you. Layer 1. Admission. Cars roll in and pay per person or per carload. This is the money everyone sees, and it is the money that mostly leaves again, because the film distributor takes their cut off the top. On a new release, admission is close to a pass-through. It fills the lot, but it does not fill the account. Layer 2, and this is the real business, the snack bar. Popcorn, soda, hot dogs, candy, burgers, fries. The margins here are enormous, commonly 70 to 85 cents of profit on every dollar, because a few cents of corn and a paper cup sell for many dollars. On a lot of drive-ins, concessions are not a sideline. They are 40 to 60% of all revenue, and far more than that of the actual profit. So say that plainly. A drive-in is not a mover business with a snack bar attached. It is a snack bar that shows a movie to get you in the gate. The film is the bait. The food is the catch. Layer 3. The event nights. renting the whole place out for a private showing. A car show, a swap meet, a church group, a concert on the field. In the off hours and the shoulder season, the empty lot can still earn. Layer 4. The small money on the edges. $1 or $2 per car booking fee. Selling ad slots on screen before the show. A playground that keeps families coming early to spend more at the counter. Stack those together, and one thing is obvious. The screen sells the ticket, but the popcorn pays the bills. Listen to that again. Here is the number worth stopping on. On a new first-run film, the studio can take more than half of every admission dollar, sometimes well over half, in the opening weeks. So, on the product that the entire place is built around, the giant glowing screen, the owner might keep less than half, and out of that half pay for the film shipping, the staff, and the power. Listen to that again. The main attraction, the movie, can be the least profitable thing the drive-in sells. The popcorn, the thing you think of as a snack, keeps 70 to 85 cents on the dollar and carries the whole operation. That inversion is the whole secret of the business, and it is why the survivors obsess over the snack bar and treat the film as a cost of getting cars through the gate. That dancing hot dog on the intermission reel was never a joke. It was the actual business model, asking you to visit the concession stand, because that stand is where a drive-in lives or dies. The ledger. Turn the page to what leaves the account, because the costs are stubborn even when the lot is empty. The land is the anchor. Property taxes on 10 or 15 acres of well-located ground, and if you lease instead of own, a monthly rent that has to be paid in January, when the place is shut and earning nothing. Then, the film rental. That big share of ticket money going back to the studio on every new release. Then, payroll, ticket booth, projection, and above all, the snack bar, which is the busiest and most labor-heavy part of the whole site on a Saturday night. Then, the building and the ground, insurance, which is not cheap when you invite hundreds of cars and families onto your property after dark. Maintenance on the screen, the pavement, the restrooms, the playground, utilities, and the digital projector, which was the bill that quietly killed a wave of drive-ins, because when the studios went digital, every owner had to spend tens of thousands per screen, or close. Many just closed. Then the invisible cost owners underestimate most. The empty months. The off-season, where the taxes, the insurance, and the loan payment keep coming while the gate is chained shut. A drive-in earns in a sprint and spends all year long. The trap. Here is the trap, and it is not a bad film or a rainy summer. It is the ground you are standing on. A drive-in sits on 10 or 15 acres of open, flat, well-located land. That is exactly the land that a housing developer, a shopping center, or a warehouse builder wants most. And as the town around the drive-in grows, that land gets more and more valuable for everything except showing movies. So, the owner ends up sitting on an asset with a split personality. As a drive-in, it earns a modest living 6 months a year, fighting the weather and Hollywood for every dollar. As raw real estate, it might be worth millions to someone who will never show a single film on it. That is the trap. The better the location does, the more the land is worth, and the harder it becomes to justify keeping a movie screen on it. Success in the neighborhood becomes pressure to sell. The drive-in is not usually killed by failing. It is killed by the land beneath it succeeding. The history digression. To understand this business, go back to a driveway in New Jersey and a man trying to solve a very small problem. His name was Richard Hollingshead. In the early 1930s, in Camden, New Jersey, he was a sales manager at an auto parts company, and the story goes that his mother found regular movie theater seats uncomfortable. So he set out to build a theater she could watch from her car. He tested it in his own driveway. He mounted a projector on the hood of his car, nailed a screen between two trees, and put a radio behind it for sound. He even turned on the lawn sprinkler to see how the experience held up in the rain. Then he worked out how to space cars on ramps so everyone had a clear view. He patented the idea, and on a June evening in 1933, he opened the world's first drive-in on a boulevard near Camden. 400 cars, a screen 40 by 50 feet, 25 cents a person, and no more than $1 a car. Here is the part that tells you everything about this business. Hollingshead's patent was later overturned. Thousands of drive-ins then opened across the country using his idea, and he collected almost nothing from them. The man who invented the drive-in barely made money from the drive-in. Fitting for a business where the obvious product is almost never where the money actually is. The death spiral. So watch how a drive-in actually dies, because it is a slow squeeze, not a sudden crash. Their golden age peaked in the late 1950s, with over 4,000 drive-ins glowing across America. Then came the pressure. Layer on layer. Daylight saving time pushed sunsets later, shortening the showtime. Color television kept families home. Then, the multiplex arrived, 8 or 16 screens under one air-conditioned roof, running new films all day in any weather. Then, home video let you watch anything on the couch. Attendance thinned. As it thinned, that valuable land started whispering. Developer offers a number the owner could never earn in a decade of popcorn. Around the same wave, the studios demanded digital projectors, tens of thousands of dollars per screen, right when the crowds were already shrinking. For most owners, the math was brutal. Spend a fortune on a projector to keep a marginal seasonal business alive, or take the developer's check and walk away. Most walked. By the 1990s, the count was under 1,000. Today, only a few hundred remain. Notice how they died. Not mostly in bankruptcy. In real estate transactions, the screens did not go dark because the popcorn stopped selling. They went dark because the land got too valuable to leave under a movie screen. The survivors. So who is still standing and how? The survivors share a few hard habits. 1. They usually own their land outright, bought long ago and cheap. So there is no monthly lease bleeding them in the off-season, and no landlord who can sell out from under them. 2. They run the snack bar like the main business it actually is. Wide menus, full kitchens, fast service. Because every extra dollar a carload spends at the counter is a dollar that mostly stays. They treat the film as traffic and the food as profit. 3. They fill the calendar. Swap meets, car shows, flea markets, private rentals, seasonal events, anything that earns off the land when the projector is off. Your best operators run an events venue that happens to show movies on weekends. 4. They stack the screens and the cars. Many survivors run multiple screens on one lot, showing a double feature on each. So one piece of land and one snack bar serve far more cars a night. 5. The quiet one. They resist the land temptation, often because the family wants the drive-in to survive more than it wants the check. That is not an economic strategy. It is the reason many of the last ones are still here at all. The verdict. So, does owning a drive-in actually work? Let us run it and treat this as a model, not a real theater. You own the land outright, so no lease. On a good summer, strong weekends, a packed lot, and a snack bar running hard, a healthy single-screen drive-in can clear a real but modest profit for the season. Tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes into 6 figures, on a busy multi-screen site. The concession stand does most of that work. The tickets mostly wash through to the studios. That is the good year. Now the bad one. A cold, wet summer cancels weekend after weekend. A weak film slate keeps cars away. The season runs short, but the taxes and insurance run all 12 months. On a rough year, that modest profit can vanish into a loss, and you feed the land out of pocket until spring. But here is the real verdict, the one that makes a drive-in different from almost every other business. Even in a good year, the profit from showing movies is often small next to what the land itself is worth. You could run a perfect season, sell every seat and every hot dog, and still earn less than the interest on what a developer would pay you for the dirt. So the honest answer is this. As a movie business, a drive-in is a hard, seasonal, weather-beaten way to earn a modest living. As a land holding, it can be a fortune waiting for a signature. And the whole art of owning one is deciding every single year to keep choosing the movie over the money. So look again at what you really bought. Not the screen. The screen is just paint on steel. Not the projector, and not even the movie. Because the movie was always mostly Hollywood's money passing through your gate. You bought a field. A big, flat, well-located field that a whole town is slowly deciding it wants. Every summer you keep a screen standing on it, you turn down the offer, and choose the popcorn over the payout. A drive-in owner is not really selling movies. They are refusing to sell the land.